Fast 9 fucking sucked. I know, God forbid, let me explain. Look, I know this isn't a hot take to have, but man, this movie fucking sucked, dude. Oh my god. Look, I get it. I look like someone who would suck off a hypebeast for a new Supreme t-shirt. But just hear me out here. To prove why you should listen to me, let's take it to me, on the other side of the room here, to break down my credentials.
I like movies.
Fantastic. Now that we've gotten my credentials out of the way, let's get into why this movie fucking sucked so hard. Like and subscribe. It was pretty hard to determine what sucked the worst, but let's start with this uncircumcised penis. When I think of the rotating cast of current action movie stars that we have right now, I think of The Rock, maybe Jason Statham, even Tom Cruise. At least those guys are fucking charismatic. They bring something to a movie. Hobbs and Shaw was great. I honestly loved it. I mean, it was a terrible story, but it was still entertaining. This movie was 2.5 hours long, and most of it was this idiot. Now, before I go any further, I'm not hating. I'm glad that he's making money. These movies are still making money. Like, a lot of money. But this is basically like a Transformers movie now. If they replaced Vin Diesel in this movie with Groot, also voiced by Vin Diesel, I honestly don't know if I would have known the difference. He basically only grunts and makes the same face for every situation. It's like a super serious, yet playful, yet maybe trying to be sexy face. It's awful. The acting in this movie is just terrible. And it's not just him, it's her as well. Fucking give me a goddamn break in this movie. 2.5 hours long with these two idiots as the main characters. My expectations for this movie were lower than the time I walked into a drug test knowing full well the night before in a blackout I had smoked a bunch of weed. I knew this movie was going to be terrible, and it was still worse than what I expected. That would be like me walking into that drug test thinking I'm about to get popped for weed, and every single drug that's ever been known to man shows up as a positive. The other acting was okay. John Cena was honestly pretty good, but when the movie is carried by Vin Diesel, it's just fucking terrible. Okay, let's move on to the second worst thing in this movie. I'm kidding. Kind of. It's honestly tied with the story. Let's start with the haircut. What the fuck are you guys doing? What are you doing? Charlize Theron is one of the most beautiful people on the planet, and you managed to make her look like a 13-year-old prepubescent boy in Idaho that's about to jerk off for the 6th time that day. What is going on? Why? The story, obviously, was gonna be bad. Even in Hobbs and Shaw, like I said, one of my favorites from this franchise, the story is terrible. But it's still entertaining. The story was always going to be terrible. The Fast and Furious franchise, basically at this point, always has the same story. Bad guys show up, bad guy want to destroy world, big dumb ape stop bad guy with the power of family and cars. That's fine. I get it. So I'm not even going to spend that much time on this. Let's get to the third worst part of this movie. The action is not cool. It's not good. Once you start making what they're doing not be in the realm of physics, it's like not that badass when it's only about cars. Cars doing the impossible for now 10 movies is just not that entertaining. They had a big magnet in this that flung a bunch of cars around that also didn't really follow the rules of physics or even the rules that they had set up in the beginning of the movie.
Got a magnet plane?
And the action is non-stop. And that's actually not a good thing. It makes all of it pretty boring. It's 2.5 hours of this. It's too long. And the action especially doesn't matter when there are zero stakes. You know for a fact that none of this is going to affect them in a true negative way. Nobody ever gets hurt. No one dies for real. There's no point to it. I truly don't understand how people think that this is badass. I'll give them credit, maybe it was for the first couple movies, but it's so old at this point. Okay, let's get to the fourth point. Look, I don't blame Tyrese Gibson or Ludacris. I think they play their characters pretty well, honestly. It's like the writer had a funny premise a few times and just wrote, give this to Tyrese and Ludacris and let them figure it out for 5 minutes on camera. The jokes are so fucking terrible, and it's because they're not jokes. The jokes or funny scenes or comic relief or whatever the fuck should be quick. They shouldn't take 10 minutes to get the point across. I'm gonna mix this in with the fifth point now, the unself-aware part of this movie.
My ass is in fuego!
I really thought that at this point, that the movie would sort of be aware that what they're doing is superhuman-like. It makes no sense. They're all still alive. That's obviously not something that would really happen. What they're doing in the laws of physics are no longer real. And that's okay. If a movie sets up a world where the physics in this world are different than the one that we live in, that's fine. But there's a few times in the movie where they talk about physics, they talk about how no one has died and how crazy that is, but they don't, it just misses the mark. They don't even come full circle with it. There's a point in the movie where Tyrese Gibson says something along the lines of, none of us have even walked away with a scratch. And then they literally don't walk away with the scratch later, and they don't bring it up again. They should have at least had one scratch on, as a joke. They go to space in this movie. They go to space in this movie. They go to space in this movie. And they have the audacity to talk about physics, but not make any jokes about it. This franchise has jumped the shark when it comes to the main cast. I think, again, Hobbs and Shaw was refreshing. They can go in different branches, but this same main cast of just terrible actors, they went to space in this movie. Like, that was the joke, that this movie would eventually end up in space, and they did it, and they didn't make any jokes about it. They're just in space. What the fuck do I know, though? This movie crushed in the box office. The only thing that restored my faith in humanity a little bit was that in the theater, about a quarter of the people in there seemed to feel the same way that I did, laughing at all the same parts that I did that were clearly just absolutely batshit crazy. I don't know. Am I wrong? Did you like this movie? Tell me why, bitch. I'm kidding. I don't care. I'm sure I'll get shit for this somehow still, even though this is like the majority of people's takes. Do me a favor though, if you're gonna shit on me for this opinion in the comments, just please do it with the correct grammar and punctuation. Because right now I'm betting that not a single person that's gonna disagree with this opinion can form a full sentence that way. Anyway, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, or don't do any of that shit. Or do it. It'd be sick. Peace, Daddy.
I like movies.